Now, with a brutal, deadly attack on a teen in Las Vegas, 8 are facing murder charges and police are looking for more.
There's no justice for my son, Jonathan Lewis, that was stabbed to death and murdered while 20 people stood there and did nothing more than film it and broadcast it to social media.
Come to terms with what they've done, man. I mean, I just love my children with all my heart, and it's just unimaginable that we could ever come to this point.
10 other teens stomped on his head.
He's bleeding from his nose, and his face is turning blue.
With 4 facing second-degree murder charges.
What occurred here is obviously very concerning. Hi guys, welcome back to KW Lawholic. It's Kayla. If you're new here, thank you for joining us. If you're not, thank you for always returning, and let's jump straight into the case. Today's case is about 17-year-old Jonathan Edward Lewis Jr. He was born on January 10th, 2006 to his parents, Jonathan Lewis Sr. and his mother, Melissa Reddy. He currently lives in Las Vegas, Nevada with his mother, but he did have plans to eventually move to Austin, Texas to live with his father. Jonathan attended Rancho High School in Las Vegas, Nevada. Jonathan was a very artistic child. He loved drawing, photography, and painting. And one of his biggest things and motivations was that Jonathan was a music connoisseur. He loved music, especially hip hop. Jonathan's father had described his son as a loving, giving, kind, and fierce young man who loved to help others and his community. On November 1st, 2023, at the Rancho High School, an incident had occurred, and the Clark County School District Police Department were called to the scene. They were informed about a battery. When the officers arrived on scene, they found Jonathan unconscious, badly beaten, and the school staff members were currently performing CPR on him. Jonathan was bleeding from the head while he was at the scene. After emergency responders got on scene, they eventually rushed Jonathan to the University Medical Center of Southern Nevada. There at the hospital, they hospitalized him and eventually put him on life support. But soon after that, the doctors came with sad information. They told his family that Jonathan had suffered head trauma that was non-survivable. And 6 days later, on November 7th, 2023, Jonathan Lewis was considered medically brain dead. After Jonathan's death and the incident as a whole, the police started to open up an investigation. They wanted to see what was the actual cause of this fight, what really started it. Detectives were able to uncover senseless information. They found out that earlier that week, a group of bullies had stole a pair of wireless headphones, possibly a marijuana vape pen, from a student. And this student happened to be one of Jonathan's friends. The bullies who stole from Jonathan's friends had also put Jonathan's friend in a trash can. And because of that, the students all came together and agreed that they would fight after school to handle the situation once and for all. The fight had happened on Wednesday, November 1st, 2023, after the school had let out classes for the day. And initially, Jonathan was not planning to fight at all. He wasn't even supposed to be involved in any altercations. The only thing that Jonathan was going to do was to accompany his friend to the fight. He was just gonna go with him to the alleyway to be there as like moral support. When they got there, they were surrounded by approximately 15 other students. That is basically a mob, considered from 2 people to 15. Eventually, based on video evidence, in the video, you can see Jonathan taking off his shirt to prepare to fight. Therefore, that tells us that something had to have happened in that time span that triggered Jonathan to have to involve himself into the situation. And not long after, Jonathan is swarmed. In the video, you can see Jonathan be pushed against a fence and towards the ground. While Jonathan was forced onto the ground, you can see that he was kicked, punched, and repeatedly stomped on by 10 individuals. Jonathan was jumped because all he wanted to do was support and be there for a friend. He wanted to help his friend, and that caused him to be attacked by multiple individuals. The authorities had noted that all of the participants and the witnesses were attendees of the Rancho High School. These were all students that went to the school. These are students that knew each other, knew Jonathan's friend, knew Jonathan. After Jonathan was attacked, there was a pass-buyer who saw it, and they picked him up while he was unconscious and carried him all the way back to the high school. And that is where they were able to finally get help and call the authorities. But moving along from these graphic details, the authorities working along with the school and the Clark County School District Police Department were able to identify the 10 individuals.
You see in the video, though, is approximately 10 subjects, kicking, stomping, and punching our victim Jonathan as he's on the ground, not defending himself, and to the point where he becomes unconscious.
8 of the 10 were positively identified and arrested through search warrants. Detectives were also able to get in those search warrants evidence that was essential and key points in cementing these arrests. They wanted to get the students' clothes that they had on the day of the fight and matched them to the video footage of multiple videos on social media. And not too long later, Jonathan's autopsy was conducted by the Clark County Coroner's Office. There, they were able to determine that his cause of death was listed as complications from multiple blunt force injuries. All of that force at once in areas that are sensitive, the heart, the brain, the head. So after the investigation kind of passed and we're getting towards the crime and what they're going to do for it, the 9th person was eventually arrested as well. So now they have 9 juveniles that they have in custody, and all 9 of them are currently facing murder charges. The suspects a part of these murder charges, age ranges include all the way from 13 years old, as young as that, to 17 years old. The judge for their case decided to hold all of the students, and he gave no bond to no one. Now, breaking down the case, 4 of the teenagers were older, and those teenagers were Deani Robertson, Damian Hernandez, Travion Randolph, and Dontrell Beaver. They were scheduled to be tried as adults since they were in the age ranges of 16 to 17. The other teenagers a part of the incident were ordered to still be held in a juvenile detention center until the certification of paperwork for the hearing that was supposed to happen on December 6, 2023. The reason being because their age ranges fell between 13 and 15 years old. After that, the district attorney decided to start corroborating and listening to and confirming some plea deals with the rest of the juveniles involved. On August 2nd, 2024, the district attorney did something weird. They backtracked. And from this, they allowed the other 4 older teenagers to be considered juveniles. They gave them the option to plead guilty as juveniles. They weren't going to charge them as adults anymore. After this deal was presented, Jonathan's mother, Melissa, came and criticized the deal because she was not notified of it beforehand. His mother said,
"There's no justice for my son, Jonathan Lewis, that was stomped to death and murdered while 20 people stood there and did nothing more than film it and broadcast it to social media."
And that is a very strong statement. There were so many bystanders. There was so much footage from different angles of the same brawl that included a ton of people, and no one stopped to help. And sadly for Jonathan's family, on September 4th, 2024, those older teenagers, those 4 that the district attorney gave a plea deal to, they struck the deal. They all took it, so it worked. All 4 of them pled guilty to voluntary manslaughter as juveniles. One of the juveniles, Damian Hernandez, his lawyer, Karen A. O'Connelly, said to NBC News in an interview, though not one of the major participants, Damian deeply regrets his participation in the melee, which resulted in Jonathan's tragic death, and will accept whatever punishment is meted out. So they end up getting the deal. They're charged for voluntary manslaughter as juveniles. So depending on their age and what the state and judge decide, they could get out in a couple years for the younger ones. The other ones get out, get transferred, get out and be okay. Maybe some type of rehabilitation program. Who knows? I do want to tell you guys some of the things that his father, Jonathan Sr., told us. He said that his son truly loved his friends and family, and that he was being a hero when he died. He was helping his friend who couldn't really defend himself. His father said this: "We denounce violence as a means to solving sociological conflict and teach that love, empathy, compassion, and a strong sense of community are pillars of a healthy and strong society. We are so deeply grateful for all of the love and support and believe that love will always win and evil will always be defeated." Even through this hard time, it is still motivating to me to see that his father is using this as a platform to spread awareness and be positive in a way. His father did express his disgust and disappointment with the fight, but he's still trying to put everything in a positive light. And that is very admirable.
All I can do is just hope that they can find forgiveness in their heart and find a way to be able to come to terms with what they've done, man. I mean, I just love my children with all my heart, and it's just unimaginable that we could ever come to this point.
Even for the students that took his son's life, he wants them to be able to find peace with the situation and to understand that what they did take his son's life, but that they can get through it and not feel tremendous guilt. Jonathan Sr. shared that he tried so hard to keep his son alive while he was on life support, but he wanted to end his suffering and pain because his injuries were just too severe. He told the public that his son decided to donate his organs to be able to help others and save others in the future. So thank you guys for listening to this case. I would love to hear your thoughts, so please drop them down in the comments. Share any other cases you would like me to cover, and thank you for just always supporting me. And I'll see you next time on KW Lawholic.